Hello and welcome to the channel. And in this video we're going to continue our topic of arrays and passing arrays into methods, but we're going to actually look at now returning an array from the method. So fairly simple. In the previous video we kind of went through making a method and passing in an array, and then we just kind of processed it as a system print. And then we also went and did overloaded methods down the line here, and these are all essentially the same method, but they take in different parameters, or they take in different array types, data types, and then they do essentially the same thing. We'll print it out. So they're overloaded so that we can just call the same name and pass in a different type of a array. So at this point we're now going to create another array. So we can just use a double array. Not really a big deal. You can do whatever you want. We'll call it our numbers array, and we're just going to put values into it this time. We could take data from a user if you'd like, but it's not really a big ordeal. We're just going to put in a bunch of numbers. Oh, we need to have this comma here. Oh, again, missed my comma. Okay, so it's not really a big deal. You can put as many numbers as you want. You can do whatever you wish when it comes to your array. If you want to use like a string array and put names in it or something like that. I'm just using a double array, different data for different purposes. So whatever works. We have our array all set up with floating point decimal numbers here, doubles. So what we're going to do now is we'll actually create our method, and what we're going to do is we'll actually take the array here, and we'll just do it in reverse. We'll just reverse the order of the array. Oh, look at this. I actually put this in again. Oh, and I did 4523 again. Huh, how original that is. Try to change some of these numbers up so that they're, there we go. Not a big deal. It doesn't really actually matter. Oh, I did 4523 so many times. Oh, 42. Okay, that works. So here we go. We'll take our cap locks off. We'll type public static, and this time we're going to be using a double. So instead of void, we will now use double, because again, this is our return type. And we do have to put the array delimiter here, or the symbol for an array, when we're using it in a return. And we'll just say reverse order. Pretty useless. You know, sometimes you might want to have this happen. You want to reverse the order of them. There's other methods we can definitely look into for sorting and kind of going through arrays more efficiently, but again, this is one way that you can do. You know, if you want to take this value here and you want to actually store it here, and you want to, you know, this one and put it here, and we're just gonna kind of flip the array around. All right, so in this form we're gonna actually pass in the double, put the double array data type in there, and we'll just again use args as our generic way of, you know, signifying the name for the array passed in. All right, you can name it whatever you wish. It's not a big ordeal on that end of things. So what we're going to do is actually create another double array in here, and we'll call it the reverse array. All right, we'll make it equal to a new double array, and then what we're going to do is use args.length as the actual length parameter here, so that anytime that this grows and gets bigger, it'll be dynamically changing and actually growing with whatever your array actually was up here. So it's a way to keep it dynamic and keep it flowing a lot more usable, rather than, you know, not not having to come back down in here and constantly change this value every time it comes in. It just helps to keep things very dynamic and flowing properly. Usability as well. So now we have our array set up. We'll use a for loop, and we're not going to use the for each this time, because again, the for each is just kind of going from top element to the bottom element, so it wouldn't really help us in this form. But I do want to show you the int, and we'll say int x is equal to 0. And now here what we're going to do is we're going to use the int x to be our control variable for the numbers array. Alright, so at 0 it's going to take this value here. What we need is another control variable for the reverse array, so that it starts at the end of the reverse array. And we can actually do that right inside this for loop. It's kind of handy for this. So if you just put a comma, you can continue declaring variables along the way. And we don't need to actually put int y is equal to 0. That will actually throw you an error. You can just simply put y is equal to, and then we can make y equal something. What we'll do is actually take the args.length, alright, and then that will store the length of the array, but we're going to have to subtract it by 1, okay? Because if you notice, when we set these up, it kind of takes into the consideration that we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 values. So it'll say 12, right? But 0 is technically the starting point. So the end here, when we actually want to print this one, is actually 11. I know it's kind of weird, but it's just how it works, and how Java kind of works when initializing a new array. When it takes this number into account, it actually doesn't really account for 0. Technically, it's saying that we want 12 total slots, but when we're looking at the index, 0 is always the first index, so there's actually truly 11 elements available to us. So that's why we have to do this -1. All right, we'll take x, and then we'll say, well, it's less than args.length again, and you don't need to put the -1 because we're not doing an equals here, so it'll kind of take that -1 for us. All right, and now the cool part about this as well is, if we put the incrementation here for x, we can actually put this comma, and we can actually decrement y at the same time. So it'll work very handily when we're doing what we need to have done here. So if we take now the reverse, and we said we wanted to use y as the starting top level, and we'll put y into here, and then we can take args, the argument array, the array that was passed, into here, and we can use x in its index. Okay, and then once we're done, we'll just simply return the reverse array, and you don't have to put the delimiter here to signify it's an array, because Java knows that you're sending back an actual double array. You don't need to kind of tell it that. It already assumes that by you putting the array delimiter, signifier, or symbols right after the data type in the return. All right, so that's just, make sure you don't put this. It's not going to work that way, but that's all right. So everything's all set up. It's ready to go. This will work how we wish it to, and we already kind of got our overloaded methods for printing the array. If you haven't done this in the previous videos or anything, then this will be the actual method that we're going to call, invoke, or use in order to just simply print it out. So if you just want to quickly print or create this method as well, then that's perfect. You can do that, or you can even make a loop depending on how you want to go about doing it. So now we just need to use our reverse. Now every time we pass back or return a value, when we use it or call this method or invoke this method, calling it, using it, or invoking it kind of all is the same thing. We need a place to store it. And while we already have this one numbers array, we'll just simply store it back inside that numbers array. Okay, so what we're kind of doing is taking this array and then we're reverse ordering it, and then we'll just store it back inside of here once it's done. So we can say it's equal to reverse underscore order. We'll call the array, and then we'll finish this, and to call your method, we'll use the method, we'll call it. We now need to pass in our array here, so we can take the numbers, we pop it inside here, and now it's going to use the numbers down here to reverse order, kick it back out to us up here, and we now just simply need to print it out. So we can say print underscore array, and then we'll say numbers. All right, and see if you notice that these are changed. When we did write them in the other program, they were camel case like that, but I realized that that's not generally how I go about doing things, and I changed it. So don't be afraid about that. If you have it camel cased and you're using it, just use it the same way. It's not a big deal. If you want to change it, then that's fine too, but it doesn't matter. As long as you know what the name is and you know how to use it, then that's perfectly fine. So as you can see, we have all of our program pretty much together here. We can run this now. Wait for it. Now you can notice, this is the first element of our array, which is actually now the last element of our array. And then we can go through the list and see that the second one is now here, 10 is now at the third location. So it did successfully reverse the order of our array. All right, so that's just a simple little application. And if you notice, we can add in things here, so we can add in some more values. Right, and we can run this again, and it will simply just continue to reverse the order of our array no matter what size it actually becomes. We now have 4, 5, 6 is the last element in our actual array, but we switched it and put it into the first. Okay, so it's dynamic, it grows with the program, it keeps flowing, and the reusability of it is a lot easier as well. And you can do overloaded methods with this kind of situation. So just very quickly, if you want, we can come down here and we can very simply change this. If we wanted to have it be a string, we can turn this into a string. We can then turn this into a string, and then this one here needs to be a string as well. So now our method is overloaded. We can now use reverse order with any string type variable or string array. That's simply by changing the actual data type on the return value itself, or the return expression here. You can change the data type on the input, or the variable or array being passed in, change the data type on the array that we have declared and created inside of our method, and also on the new declaration of our array, and then everything will just work perfectly fine. We can then come up here and we'll create a new string array really quickly. String, we'll say names, just make something up. Put that back there, and just quickly we need to do the array. Won't work as a single value. Okay, and then we can start putting in our names. So string. Alright, so something very simple like so. And then we can just simply do the same thing. If we needed names now, we can reverse order the names. And we can simply just print that out. And very quickly and easily we have all these different methods available for us to actually, take advantage of when we need them. So that's kind of the power of methods. And we now see we have our reverse order names. So now Jesse is the first type, Sam's the second, Tom, Chris, Jim, Gary, Jerry, Bob, Bill, and Jane. All right, so that's pretty much it for this video. I hope you understand now returning arrays kind of works the same way as we did with our normal methods with just primitive data types in that regards. So arrays is really no different. Just make sure to put the array signifier or delimiters inside of the return type clause here, or return type expression piece, and then be sure to not put the delimiter here. Will just cause an error. Alright, so that's pretty much this video. If you like the video, give it a thumbs up. If you have any comments, questions, or ideas for future videos, put in the comment section below. If you want to subscribe to the channel and check out the rest of it, that'd be great. And we'll catch you in the next video.